Hi everybody, this is Anne. This video is dedicated to all those potters who've ever looked at a piece they just made and said, now how am I going to decorate this? We compiled the 25 best tips and tricks for creating texture on clay, and we're going to count them all down for you right now. Starting in the kitchen, we found this holiday shortbread pan. I put a little cornstarch on the section I wanted to capture, then pressed the clay down, and there you have it. I bore a hole in the corner, and I have a gift tag or a Christmas ornament. I found this table runner with a great doily pattern. I centered the clay on the slab and gently rolled the pattern into the clay. I cut this out and rolled it around a carpet tube for a beautiful mug. Rubber stamps are a no-brainer. They're easily found in any craft store, and although they're made for inks, the engraved surface is perfect for clay embossing. Just choose a design that's not overly detailed, and you can print a nice negative image. For a cool variation, I took polymer clay and pressed the stamp into that. I dried it in the oven to harden it. Now when I press this into the clay, I get the raised positive image of the stamp. Now we move into the toolbox where we found this rotary wire wheel. We inserted the stem into a wooden ball so it could turn easily. This one's a fun one to use on the rim of a bowl when the wheel is spinning, but it'll work on a slab too. It shreds the clay so you get a nice furry appearance. You can see how easy it turns on the wheel to create this fuzzy rim. Isn't that cool? I used it here on the rim of a cracker plate for a soup bowl, like a little nest. These paper embossers can do double duty to create their wonderful patterns on clay too. Each plate has one pattern on one side and the negative of that pattern on the opposite side. It's easy to roll the plate into the clay for these great textures. I've been using them for test tiles like this one. I found this at my local grocery store. That's a great honeycomb pattern. I simply roll that down into the clay slab for this perfect texture. And look, if I cut a circle out of it, that'd be spectacular as the bottom of a mug. We turned to items in the print shop to make our own stamps. I drew a simple design on a carving block. I shallowly carved along those lines and removed the material. I cut the stamp out with an X-Acto knife. Now you can press that into the clay for your own unique design, or do a series of stamps to create a pattern. For a variation of this, if you can't find the carving blocks, you can do the cutting on a simple eraser and use that as a stamp. You can purchase these stamped rollers in almost any pottery supply. These texture rollers have an expensive handle sold separately, but I just inserted a dowel rod through the hole and rolled it over my slab for this great texture. If you cut it out and soften the edges, it becomes a beautiful mug handle. Here's another type of stamp I found at the craft store, specifically for leather, but they work on clay too. I found these cool Celtic Knot designs that are just beautiful. When I cut them out, I can use them as appliques like this. I found these in the wood section of the craft store. They're laser-cut wooden doilies. They had the best patterns cut into them, and they make great appliques as well. Beads are all the rage right now as people make their own jewelry. I found these wire wrap beads with holes in them. I placed a bamboo skewer through it and rolled it over the slab for these amazing textured tracks. Anyone can make this cool tool by mounting a leather stud on the end of a dowel rod. When you press the tip into the clay slab, it gives a quilted appearance. For a variation, we cut that design out and bisque fired it. Now we can use that as a stamp to create the positive image of this design. Here's another handmade tool using a furniture tack on the end of a dowel that we call the honey bumper. When it's pressed into the clay as a pattern, it gives you a honeycomb look. Again, we cut this pattern out and bisque fired it so we could create the positive of it. Looks like stonework to me. Well, that or a bowl of floating cereal. Whether you find your own shells on the beach or buy them at the craft store, they all make great natural textures for a sea-themed piece. You can press them into the clay for the negative impression, but I also pressed one into polymer clay and baked it so I could make the positive of the shell. We all have our collection of old buttons. Some of them have wonderful textures like this one. Again, you can press it straight into the clay for the negative, or you can cut that negative image out, bisque fire it, and use that as a stamp to make a positive image like this. For another natural texture, just go outside and look around. I love the bark patterns on this tree. I just pressed a slab on the trunk for an organic texture. Here's a cool vase that I made from the slab right from the tree. We all have shelf liner in the kitchen. That also makes a great clay texture, and there's so many different patterns. This one's my favorite. If you roll it flat side down, it creates a great square pattern. If you roll it puffy side down, you get a more rounded square pattern. If you double up and stagger the liner, you get an even more elaborate pattern. Moving to the junk drawer, we found these great rounded sleek pin tips. When I push them into the clay, varying the pressure, I get a Swiss cheese look. I even created this on the bottom of a bowl. Now how cute is that? Etched rolling pins are very popular. You can purchase a pin that's already been designed, or you can design your own like I did here. When I roll it over the clay, it leaves a professional-looking design. You don't have to spend a lot of money for a rolling pin, though. You can make a simpler version of a cut rolling pin with a wood burner. Following safety precautions, of course, I burned a design into a dowel rod. Now when I roll this into the clay, I get a nice continuous pattern. Another variation of the previous idea is to use hot glue. Again, being cautious when using a hot item, I just freehanded this floral design of glue on the dowel. Here's the pattern it created when I rolled it into the clay. We've done so many things with the ribbed car mat. Of course, with its raised parallel lines, it makes great stripes. And when you turn the mat sideways, you get a checkered pattern. When you cut the lines on a diagonal and do the same thing, they appear as diamonds. You can cut the mat itself into patterns and stamp those to the slab like block patterns or chevron patterns. I found this broken lawn ornament in the dollar store for 50 cents. I love that face. I tried making different molds from it, one from polymer clay and one from clay that I bisque fired. I can press clay into it for a whole face, or I can capture a section of the face. When I use the pin tips along the side, it looks like moon craters and the face becomes the man on the moon. I can see that as a brooch or an applique. Plaster is also another medium that can be easily carved into with a good amount of detail. I carved a pattern into the tile cavity of this plaster mold. Then when I pressed the clay down into the mold, I got this great tile. For the number 1 texture trick, we all love the dragon's tooth design. To make this, many people use a church key bottle opener. I found the same thing on the end of my can opener. When you push this into the clay, you end up with this really cool pattern. Another way to make different sized and faster dragon teeth is by using a trowel. Look at the teeth on this. I just pressed the teeth down onto the slab to create that classic look. That concludes our countdown. I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas for your favorite texture in the comments. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. It also really helps us out if you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you next time in the studio.